even on this Christmas Eve, President Trump is facing another tumultuous week with parts of the government gone dark, financial markets in a tailspin, and now a sudden move by the president to cut short the tenure of his Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. This morning, President Trump is abruptly pushing out his Defense Secretary ahead of schedule, announcing in a tweet he's replacing Jim Mattis at the start of the new year, 2 months earlier than planned. Two senior administration officials tell NBC News Mattis learned of his new end date Sunday in a phone call from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, rather than from the president himself. Mr. Trump grew frustrated, according to several administration sources, by reports which painted Mattis as the last adult in the room. Mattis portrayed as the cabinet member capable of reining in Mr. Trump's impulses. Mattis's replacement, Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan, a former Boeing executive who joined the administration in 2017. It comes as the government shutdown enters day 3, as a congressional compromise remains out of reach. Newly appointed acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney offering his prediction on how long it might last.
I think it's very possible that this shutdown will go beyond the 28th and into the new Congress.
The Senate gavelled into session on Saturday, but with no deal in sight, adjourned until Thursday, ensuring the shutdown drags past Christmas.
60 votes in the Senate, majority in the House, and President Trump's signature. That's what will end this regrettable episode.
The stalemate hinging on funding for Trump's signature campaign promise, a southern border wall. The White House has dropped down from its $5 billion demand for border security money, hoping Democrats move up from their $1.3 billion counteroffer. Democrats are dug in.
So the Trump shutdown isn't over border security. It's because President Trump is demanding billions of dollars for an expensive, ineffective wall.
Government workers caught in the middle of the standoff.
We're at their mercy at this point.
And hundreds of thousands of those government employees are either working without pay or being forced to take unpaid leave while this partial shutdown drags on. But they will be paid retroactively when the federal government reopens. Kristen and Craig.
No doubt that is another pressure point, Geoff. And there's another story there that you're tracking, which is the growing concerns about the state of the economy. And we know that Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin made some unexpected calls yesterday. That's getting some scrutiny. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Mnuchin says he called top executives from the country's 6 largest banks over the weekend. Now, those calls were aimed at calming the nerves of investors following last week's heavy losses in the stock market and this partial government shutdown. Mnuchin posted a statement saying the banks told him they have plenty of credit to lend to American businesses and households. But you now have several analysts making the point that his attempt at damage control could actually backfire and drive even more concern and unease in the markets. Kristen and Craig.
A lot of big headlines out of the White House. Geoff Bennett, thank you.